strong, empowered, authentic.
What's up, Ginger Nation? This is Tosh.
This is Darren, and you are listening to the Authentic
Ginger Podcast.
Good morning, Ginger Nation. This is Darren Roach from the Authentic Ginger Podcast.
And I'm Tosh Taylor, ready to talk all things ginger today.
Today we're talking about the origin of why people started calling redheads ginger.
Interesting.
Before we start, I'm pretty sure I know yours, but for those who don't, and maybe new listeners who are coming on, what's your preference and why?
You can call me a redhead, call me a ginger, just don't call me firecrotch. That's all I'm asking.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because, some redheads embrace and they use the term when referring to themselves, while others find it completely offensive. So today, if our listeners send us a review, I'm going to pick one of the reviews and I'm going to send them a podcast shirt, Authentic Ginger Podcast shirt. So up for grabs today is a T-shirt from the Authentic Ginger Podcast to somebody who sends us or throws down a review for us about this particular topic. So let us know, what do you prefer to be called, redhead or ginger, and just kind of say why. So let's dive in. I mean, pop culture. Okay. So, and I'm going to say right out of the gate here that most of the information that I found is on the internet. So I'm going to be quoting a lot of this stuff because my brain power is not that large to be able to assume it and then regurgitate it back out to you in a proper manner that people will understand. So from TV shows to food to mainstream media, we're going to try to uncover this real truth. So first of all, pop culture, TV show back in the 60s. Can you name the TV show back in the 60s that had a really prominent redhead figure?
Hold on, the Andy Griffith Show.
Nope. Close.
What? Was that the 50s?
No, it was the 50s. But I'm not saying this is the only redhead, but
Happy Days. Was
nope,
that the
one more
was the
guess.
70s.
No, that was the 60s. You're good. That was the 60s. You got it.
I Love Lucy.
No.
No. Okay. All right. Okay.
Check it out.
Who else?
The popular American TV show Gilligan's Island.
Oh, Ginger. Yeah.
There you go.
Duh.
So her name was Ginger, and her real name actually is I'm not sure if you know. Do you know?
No.
You're usually good at that. Okay, Tina Louise. Louise is her,
I would have
is her
never
real
got
name.
that.
So she had red hair and pale skin, and so it has been said that Ginger quickly became enormously popular with Americans, and people began calling redheads gingers because they look similar to Ginger from the show.
Really?
Yeah. So, I think I could buy into this. Part of the American pop culture. I mean, it was a hit show for many, many years, but we see it. We still hear it on the TV today. We still see it on TV and hear it on the radio. Well, we don't hear it on the radio, but we see it on TV. Hey, what about that redhead? What about that ginger? And you will know that you're going to go to that thought of who do you know in TV? That's redhead. This is something that seems to be real. That people started calling people ginger because of this particular person, Tina Louise. Ginger. What's her last name on the show? Do you know that, Tosh?
Grant.
Oh my God.
I watched a lot of Gilligan's Island as a kid.
Stop the podcast right now. Let's move on.
I lived for that show when I was a kid.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have not seen a single episode. I know. I'm telling you.
Listen, I can look at you with like that dumbfounded look, but I've never seen an episode of Friends, and people go, "Excuse you?"
I haven't seen a full episode of Friends,
okay.
And you're gonna and while we're on that quick topic, nor have I seen an episode of Jerry Seinfeld. I know.
That went straight through my heart because I adore Seinfeld.
When we look at what we're talking about here with being called ginger or redhead, I mean, redhead is used to pertain to hair color. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So then ginger, according to those on the internet is a derogatory label when referring to an overall look of an individual. I thought this was an interesting definition of the word ginger. Because anyone with red hair can be called a redhead. Mm-hmm. Anyone with red hair can be called a ginger. Individuals with pale freckled skin and vibrant red hair color are called ginger, according to one source. I mean, so now we're talking about the word ginger being associated with a character on TV because they see red hair. And she's an attractive redhead. Mm-hmm. We're talking again about Ginger Grant from Gilligan's Island, and so I can see where people make that assumption and that connection with her hair color. When it comes down to your skin color, like whether it's pale or not, whether you have freckles or you don't, because we do know in our podcast here that you don't have to have freckles to have red hair. I mean, it's kind of, and but we are going to be talking to somebody really soon about that. But so there's that. So I'm just kind of thinking to myself here, going like, okay, what would I like to be called if I'm a full on redhead? And part of me as a male, I don't know if it's just because I'm a male, I would think I'd rather be called redhead.
Okay, I can see that
as a ginger.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
Yeah, and I can see why you would want to be called. You're okay being called ginger. It's just there's a sweeter tone to it to me.
Yeah.
With a female versus versus male, and I think we go back to that whole bullying side of things, and predominantly when we see people being called ginger and being bullied, we see males more so than we see females, because that's just the way TV and the media has put it in front of us. So moving on to some other of my findings, Tosh. I'm not, these aren't concrete, but here's a couple other theories that I thought might be entertaining. We know that there's a food that's called ginger root.
Yeah.
And so there is a thought out there that redheads are compared to ginger root. There's a stereotype that we know this, the redheads have a fiery temper.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's boring as all hell. I get that. I know. We've heard it all before. However, similar to the kick that a ginger root gives to food.
Yeah, it's got a bit of spice to it.
It's got a bit of spice to it. It's got a bit of, I'm not going to say it's got a bit of fieriness to it, but if I had to put those two words together, like fiery redhead, fiery piece of ginger, I get it. You buy into that?
No, because then why wouldn't you call me jalapeno or banana pepper? Yeah,
and by the way, they can get to a ginger color too if you let them grow long enough.
It's true, but ginger root is not red; it's yellow. Right? So I don't.
I disagree with you.
Do you?
Yeah. If you look on the inside if you look at ginger, when ginger has been, maybe I'll just kind of, I'm going to make it probably a moot point, because I mean, when you cook ginger, I don't know if you see what the color looks like, but it's pretty ginger. Like it's. I mean, look at a ginger snap. Look at a ginger snap cookie. What color is it?
Yeah,
not yellow.
But you put flour and stuff in with that. I think maybe pickled ginger. When I'm pickled, I'm pretty pink, but that's pickled ginger's pink. I don't know. I like the ginger from Gilligan's Island reference, so I'm not sure you're going to be able to pull me out of that.
I know. Well, okay. So a similar explanation associates redheads with the tinge in ginger flavored meals. So foods like gingerbread, ginger cake, or ginger snaps. We just talked about that 2 seconds ago. Again, I can see this here. I can see it. We just talked about the color of, name me a gingerbread, ginger cake, ginger snap that doesn't look like, a tinge in, I guess, a reddish tinge.
Maybe auburn. Maybe.
Okay, I'll go with auburn. Yeah, I think you're good with
dark
auburn.
red. Do you want to know what's funny about that? Is all of the things that you've listed, except for like legit ginger, I can't eat any of that. Gingerbread, ginger snaps, ginger. I'm allergic to cinnamon, so I can't eat any of those things.
Oh my fucking God. Are you serious?
I am serious.
You're an interesting character.
I'm a redhead.
Tell you.
I'm a redhead.
That is true. Yeah. You're definitely original and unique.
Yeah.
I applaud you for that.
My friend, he was in here doing a podcast one day, and he saw the unicorn sticker that you had sent me.
Oh, yeah.
that you have on the website, and he has called me unicorn every day since.
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, unicorn. How are you today? Yeah. It's pretty cute.
I love it. Just keeps getting better here, but I know we're going to get to one of these moments where you're going to be like, yeah, I get it. So mainstream media, we were just talking about that earlier, initiating trends and popularizing nicknames. Let's play it a part in the widespread use of the word ginger. So we kind of throw ourselves into the South Park, and again, I've been trying to nail these guys down, or at least a quote from their PR people. Nothing yet. I think they might be afraid to talk to us. But some people suggest that the term ginger, we've said it before, became even more popular due to the South Park episode dedicated to the stereotype. The character Cartman has an irrational fear. I'm quoting this. The character Cartman has an irrational fear about ginger kids, and goes on to say that people with red hair, light skin, and freckles have gingivitis. Why would the boys from South Park write in the show a disease called gingivitis, when if you remove the goddamn R, it becomes gingivitis, which is a mouth gum disease. And you
Mm-hmm.
just said, like, what a bunch of fucking blokes. What does that have anything to do with skin? It's a mouth they're talking about. It's so if you're gonna come up with a disease, call it something unique and different.
Ginger seed like leprosy, but ginger seed.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Like something like that. Right. Like give it a better name than I mean. Yes, and so of course from that episode we all know that everything kind of spawned from that, and that's recent years. I mean, after that episode, gingers were being called gingers all over the world.
Absolutely. I actually, honestly, I don't remember really even being called a ginger prior to that.
So can you remember then? Can you remember a time back in the day when you might have been called ginger for the first time? Like, do you recollect that?
No, but I bet you it would have been college. Like I said, I grew up in a really small town. It was super isolated.
Right.
And it wasn't until I went away to college that I like my eyes opened to the world,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
And it probably would have been college where I was like out of the entire radio school. There were two of us, Adam Withers and me, were the only two redheads out of a few hundred kids.
Other theories in this whole debate suggest that the term ginger was used much earlier. So, in fact, it was used for the first time apparently in the 18th century, taking its inspiration from a tropical plant called the Malaysian ginger plant. I know you're going to look that up at some point.
I am.
Later,
is it red?
I'm assuming so. I actually haven't seen a picture of it. So while I'm explaining this, have a look at it and let us know if it's red. So in the 19th century, though, so later on in the 19th century, the term was used to refer to people with sandy colored hair. So all of a sudden we're starting to see it, which makes me wonder what was the first color hair that people were born with? Like, was it a standard color right across the board, like what was that main color? Because as I'm reading this, it started to make my mind go, okay, so now we introduce sandy colored hair, which resembled ginger skin. So I'm assuming ginger skin, the ginger root, I'm assuming is what they meant. They didn't really quite qualify that. But over time, the term was used to refer to anyone with reddish brown hair or bright red hair. Again, folklore, I don't know. I mean, people can come up with some crazy things, but, it is what it is. So sandy colored hair turned into reddish brown ginger hair.
I'm just finishing up this ginormous book.
It looks about as thick as, well, I don't know. It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's I can't remember how many pages it is, but it's like, let's see here, 888 pages. It's the newest in the Outlander series.
Okay.
So I was just thinking though, because this is in the 1700s and she does incredible research, and obviously the lead character is Ginger, and I don't think she ever refers to him or anybody else in the book as Ginger.
Right.
But definitely as Redhead. But she does get things she always refers to as Jamie, the lead character, ages. She refers to the silver strips in his red hair. And I'm like, it's not silver, it's white.
It's white.
And I want to write her and correct her, but I don't, because I love her.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
So where is Outlander set then? Where in the world is it set?
It starts in Scotland and it's all over England. And then they end up kind of like down in the warmer, like Jamaica and stuff like that. And then they end up somewhere in the middle of the United States.
Right. Okay. No, I was just curious because in as we know, overseas in the UK, ginger is more derogatory.
Yeah.
As opposed to redhead. So I'm not surprised that she probably doesn't put it in there, but I'm not sure if that's the reason why. Maybe she doesn't even know the reason why she's not referring to people as ginger. But
honest to God, I bet you she's done her research to see how redheads were referred to back then. Because she's American. She's not like she has done all and she puts in actual facts of history through the book, like through all of the series. So I bet you she's done her research on it, which surprised me when she was referring it to as silver strands of hair, because I was surprised that she didn't know that we don't go silver, we go white.
Right.
Yeah. But
do your research. She needs to do more research.
God. Right. Like if she's got enough time she's writing 888-page books. She's got no time to do research.
She's not worried about 271 million population in the world
Well,
of redheads.
Probably. I bet you someone wrote her and said, "Oh, we don't go silver, we go white." I bet you someone has said
that's really common knowledge. That should be on the first page of your Google search. Come on. All right. So look, if you're like most people, you use the term redhead and ginger interchangeably. I think that's really true. To most of us, though, they mean the same thing. I mean, obviously, redhead's a redhead, ginger is a redhead. We don't think anything of it here in North America, or at least in Canada, we don't. The U.S. is pretty similar. In fact, we have heard that the U.S. actually would prefer to call their redheads. Mm-hmm. More people call redheads in the U.S. than ginger. I did try to do a search to see how many people we could find that like to be called, like celebrities or something, that like to be called one or the other. I can't find that.
The problem with our title of our show, the Authentic Ginger Podcast, is that anybody that's offended by being called a ginger isn't listening.
That's what I was thinking just when I was doing this damn thing research. And we got to change the fucking show name.
The Authentic Redhead Podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is another one saying, well, redheads may include natural redheads or anyone who chooses to dye their hair red. Check that out, Tosh. I mean, what do you think of that? Someone decided and said out there on the internet that people with red hair and pale freckled skin would be called gingers, while redheads may include natural redheads or anyone who chooses to dye their hair red.
The new rage right now, because Kendall Jenner has gone red, the new rage now is everybody wants to be a redhead because it's exciting and vibrant and a showstopper. That's what they're claiming. And I'm like, really? Have you talked to an actual redhead? That's not how they grew up.
Right.
It is now. And because Kendall Jenner is a redhead, and one article I read was talking about how great her stylist did on making her look like a natural redhead. You can't make her look like a natural redhead because of her skin tone.
Right.
She will never look natural. Yeah. She'll never look natural. But if you want to take someone that dyes their hair red and give them some credit for making red hair the cool thing, it should be Florence Welch of Florence and the Machine.
Right. Yep.
You'd never know she's not a natural redhead.
Absolutely correct.
Because she has ginger skin. So if you have ginger skin and you want to be a redhead, no problem. It works. Yeah. It totally works. Like, you probably didn't know Florence wasn't a natural redhead.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
I really didn't. Would I be a natural? Like, would I look natural as a redhead?
Yes.
I'm looking at my eyebrows here now. Yeah, I think I probably could. I think I would. Yeah.
Yes. You have to give the credit not to these freaking supermodels that are dyeing their hair a fake red. Not that Florence's isn't a fake red, but give credit to her stylist because that person is killing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the celebration we need to have on the show too. Let's get that stylist on the show who's done Florence's hair, and we'll tell her how amazing she is, and maybe she can. Maybe one. You know what I'm going to do one of these days, and maybe what I'll do is I will go to the salon and get my hair done red.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then we'll have a show on it, and we'll do maybe a video show on it so that our guests can see the difference between a dirty blonde Darren and a full-on redhead Darren. I don't know what kind of red I'd go, whether it would be like the bright red hair, or whether I would kind of go that would fit my skin tone, and just to see if I could trick people into thinking it's my real hair.
I would go with whatever daughter has the closest skin tone to you.
All right, well, that's fair. It's going to be bright red then.
Yeah, there you go.
That's just how it's going to go. So finally, to cap this whole thing off, Tosh, is it rude to call someone ginger in the overall scheme of this debate, redhead versus ginger?
I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to put that up to the listeners.
Okay.
I think shoot us a note, or maybe Darren will put a poll up on the Authentic Ginger Facebook page and Instagram, and you let us know what you think. Is it rude or not? Good. And in doing that, I will send another shirt out, another Authentic Ginger Podcast shirt out to one of our listeners who does just that. Okay. So we have 2 shirts we're going to give away, Tosh. First one today is you're going to review for us on our podcast whether or not you like being called redhead or ginger. Second shirt that's going to go out is it's going to be a poll. I like that idea. I'm going to do the poll on Instagram. It's going to be a story. Okay. I'd like to know the answer to that. And then if you're not following the Authentic Ginger Clothing Company yet on Instagram, we might recommend you go and do that. So you can find us at Authentic Ginger Clothing
thank you for listening to the Authentic Ginger podcast today. We have debated Redhead versus Ginger. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you on our next episode. You've been listening to the Authentic Ginger podcast.
Become a part of the Ginger Nation by liking, subscribing, following, and leaving a review wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast was produced by Tosh Taylor of the Podcast Hub Productions. Find her online at podcasthub.ca.